Yo, what's up guys? It's me, Mappy, and when I was in school, I was pretty garbage at speaking, okay? I was pretty garbage, and I'm still am. You can probably tell I speak pretty fast, I stutter, my speech is not insanely good. However, I've definitely been far better than I used to be, okay? I used to be horrendous, and so there's this thing called speeches you do in school. You've probably done them before, you probably know what it is. But yeah, you have to do speeches in school, and I'd say it's actually a pretty important thing to do in school because it teaches you about communication and public speaking, and I think that's pretty essential when it comes to doing things like jobs. So, anyways, it came to like year 8 in school, and it was time for public speak. It was time for speeches, and I don't really know how to do speeches in year 8. I just sort of just winged it. I was like every other kid. It was just like, I'm not really good at it. I'm just gonna like make sure I don't embarrass myself. If I wing it, I would be fine, and I can live my rest of my life in harmony. But when I was listening to the speeches in it, I heard one of the speeches. It was about basketball, and it was insane. It was like probably one of the best speeches I've ever heard by a school student. It was just amazing, and it sort of just ticked something in my brain, and I was like, wow, the speeches were actually so good. So that year, I sort of just winged it, and something sort of clicked in my brain that I want to do good at speeches next year. I want to be the greatest speech person there was ever to exist on this land, and I was going to take over the world because my speeches were going to be so influential and amazing. So right after I did my year 8 speech, I had planned something for the next year to come. I was going to do the greatest speech of my life, and no one could stop me. For the next year, I sort of forgot about it, the whole speech thing, you know. Anyhow, it came to speech time in year 9, so I was about 13, 14 years old. I can't quite remember. I think it was about that around that time. I don't know what grade that is at like in American schools and other schools. Anyhow, for me, it's set as year 9, and you're about 13, 14 years old. So when speeches rolled around this year, I remembered what I said last year. I was going to do the greatest speech of my life, and I was going to take over the masses with my influential, godlike speech of capabilities, and it was just going to be amazing, and no one was going to beat me. I was going to win the competition, and I was going to be praised. And you gotta remember at the time that I used to stutter a lot, and I spoke insanely fast. I'm much better now. I mean, I still stutter quite a bit. I have to like edit it out in these videos because it's so bad. And so that was going to be the hardest challenge for me, was not to like die due to stuttering and embarrass myself. And it came around to the day, and it was time to do speeches. And the first speech went by, and it was like, you know, it was like alright. It wasn't like insanely good, but it was alright. Like it was a pass. The person wasn't too bad at it. Didn't embarrass themselves or anything. Anyhow, it was the second person, and it was like, oh, who else wants to go up for speeches? It wasn't a dictatorship yet. It wasn't forced to go up. It was who wants to sacrifice their life first. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it now, before it's too late. I'm going to go and I'm going to do my speech so I don't have to worry about it any longer. And so I did it. I got up in front of everyone and I did my speech. And they laughed. They loved it so much, and I was so happy. Oh my god, I was so happy. I'd spent all this time making sure it was perfect, and they loved it. Oh my god. The speech was about advertisements, by the way. It was like the funniest. I added all sorts of memes into it. I did all sorts of actions. I was like dancing around the room at that point. Not nearly, but anyways. Anyhow, after all the excitement died down, there was a few people that got selected for doing the speech competition. That was, I think it was about in a week's time, and so you had to sort of prepare mentally, because you had to do it in front of your whole year group. There was like a couple hundred people. You had to do it. You obviously had to do it in front of the appearance as well, if they decided to turn up, which mine did in the end as well. And so, yeah, me and one of my other friends that were in the class, both of us had passed through, and I don't know, I was quite nervous. It was the first time I'd ever actually achieved something like this. This was like a monumental moment. My parents were going to be proud of me. The goal was simple. I had to come first, okay? I mean, I speak really fast and I stuttered a lot, but I had to come first. This was the ultimate goal. I needed to come first. It was the only way to like prove my worthiness to the gods that I was the greatest speechman of all time. So the best way to do this was I had to practice over and over again. It was past the time I had done my speech practice for just normal class. I had to practice it more and more and more. I had to make sure I didn't stutter, and I had to make sure I didn't have to speak fast. There was actually a time we went into a classroom one of the lunchtimes, and we practiced in front of one of the teachers, and one of the English teachers actually, and she said something. I spoke too fast. Oh no, this is not good. This is not what I want to hear. They're gonna disqualify me or something. Oh my god, bro. I'm not even going to get first if I speak too fast. I need to practice, but it was too late. It was time to do the speeches in front of my whole year group. Time for the ultimate embarrassment, or the time to prove myself worthy to everyone. And so I was sitting at the front, and it was like, with all the rest of the peers there who didn't do the speeches, obviously all of us are quite nervous, and it was like, okay, well, we hopefully we can, like, you know, not get embarrassed. That was the ultimate goal of speeches, is like not to get embarrassed. And so I'm with like everyone else, and they're like, okay, well, I mean, we're just gonna try our best. Hopefully, like kind of just wing it. Some of them didn't even want to be here to do the speeches, but I did. I wanted to be here. I wanted to be the greatest speechman of all time, and so I waited and I waited and I waited. I think I was about like the fourth or fifth person or something like that, and it was time. Before I even knew it, it was time. I had to stand in front of the stage in front of hundreds of people. Well, not hundreds. Actually, I was about 100 people, and I was pretty nervous. It was time. It was time for the ultimate test. Was I great at what I wanted to do? And I did it. The whole blimmin' crowd laughed and cheered at it. Holy moly. I'm not even joking. I'm not even trolling. Literally everyone was like laughing. I don't know how it was so funny, but people laughed, they cheered. It was actually amazing. One of the tricks actually I sort of learned was what you want to do when doing your speeches is you want to you sort of want to like look just above the eye line of like everyone. It's so amazing. Okay, it's really easy. It's actually much more easy than you think it is. What you gotta do is like not like look at the audience. Anyhow, the speech was amazing, and I felt so good. And so I thought I had it in the bag, okay? It was like there's nothing could go wrong. Oh my god, this was like the moment of truth. And there's a guy who actually won speeches in the previous years, and it was his turn. This was it. This guy was the only person who could potentially defeat me in my goal to become #1. And so it was time for the speech that I didn't want to hear because I knew it could have been me over, okay? And so he started speaking, and you could hear that he was slow, calm, and collected, and powerful. Oh my god, he was so powerful. His words echoed throughout the room, and he just completely just knocked my socks off on how good he spoke. And oh, my heart sunk. Just how good he was at it. And it was time for judging. Okay, it was before I knew it. It was time for judging. I mean, my speech was much more funny. His one was a lot more powerful, and so it was it. It was time for it. After about an hour of waiting, I had to find out who was going to be #1, and they said it. Second place was me! No! Oh my god, I've been scammed. I worked so hard for this, and I was trolled. And why did I lose? It was because I spoke too fast. No! Oh my god, my worst enemy had defeated me, and oh my god, I had been scammed. Never become first again. And now my parents left me. My brother now beats me up. I got expelled from school, and now I have no friends. Oh, I was scammed, and I am sad that I was defeated in something I spent so long trying to learn. Anyhow, I want to cry now. Bye!